Welcome to the Friendly Moms Club podcast with Jen and Karlee. We're the new mom friends you didn't know you needed.
We are creating a safe space to bring moms together, lighten the heaviness, and find joy in the everyday moments. Together, we will share our own experiences of being new moms while navigating the topics we wish more people talked about.
Join us every Monday to hear us skip the small talk and dive right into the uncomfortable.
Happy Mom Day, Karlee.
Happy Mom Day, Jen. We have a new setup if you're watching on YouTube.
Been trying some new things, a couple new things.
Today I felt like we needed to be cozy, and usually this table is jammed up against us, and it is an adventure to get out if we need to reset the camera or something. So it's very
with the
budget.
growing belly, it's also just not comfortable for me. So this is great.
Give space to Jen to let it grow, let it grow. We should start a music label. Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
So today, unfortunately, we're not actually doing the episode with Mel about her IVF experience. She's got a sick baby, such is life with children.
Very much life.
It happens all the time. So that's going to be aired probably in a few more weeks. Yeah. The date will be TBD. We will let you know. So
but
today,
she will. She's locked into a contract.
Yes.
So.
But we're just going to continue with our emotions of motherhood today. And we're going to talk about the next kind of stage, which is pregnancy.
Yeah, we had a lot of emotions this week. Henry started daycare, and if you follow along on Instagram, our stories, then you know that I had a lot of tears. I cried a lot, and I didn't think I was going to because, like we've talked about before, I'm on SSRIs, and if you've ever been on them, you know that they can kind of close the floodgates. You can, all you want to do is have this deep, intense, a cry, but you can't. The floodgates are literally closed. But this week, they opened and I cried.
That's how strong your emotions were. They overpowered the SSRI.
I cried so much. But you know what? Today was day four, and I didn't cry. He cried, but I'm hoping that gets better.
I think it will. Yeah. I'm 4 weeks into daycare, so I feel like I can see a little bit more of the light than Karlee can right now but it's hard. I'm always I wish I had something positive and upbringing to say, but it was just hard. I think you're just allowed to say it's really a hard transition. And I think we can leave it at that. You don't need to have a but and
no.
It will get better.
Hopefully, if not.
Hopefully it will, but no one needs to be told that all the time.
No.
Sometimes you just need to be told yeah, it sucks. This is really hard what you're going through.
It is.
It was very nice. Our friend Shannon actually sent Karlee some money to go get a treat and treat herself, and it was very cute, very thoughtful.
Cute. I got it.
I think you did. You needed a good coffee and a good sweet treat or something yummy and delicious.
And that's what I got. I got an iced pumpkin spice latte and a little sweet and salty bar.
So you're a PSL person.
I am. I'm
not a huge fan, but people love it.
I love
it's
them,
a huge thing.
But I'm only have maybe a handful a season because I find that I love the first few sips, and then I'm kind of it's kind of strong. It's just so overly sweet. But
I more the pumpkin things that come out. I'm more the pumpkin scones or pumpkin muffins. I like those, but the actual PSL that people go crazy about is not.
Yeah, I don't go crazy over it, but I do. I like you. I like the flavors in pumpkin pie. I like the spice blend.
Oh yeah, and I like actually using pumpkin puree in recipes.
Yeah.
It's good.
I need to make. Okay, except have you seen the price of canned pumpkin lately?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it used to be for the big ones of pumpkin.
Totally, I can picture the big ass can.
So tell me how much you think it is.
Oh, I have no idea. Okay. I haven't bought one in years.
They used to be $3-ish. They're $7
but
now.
Everything has gone up.
$7!
It doesn't surprise me at all.
I'm gonna grow my own pumpkins now.
Actually, we have one in the yard. After Halloween, we can puree it.
Pumpkin-y.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump into it.
Yeah.
Let's
pregnancy.
Let's go. Yeah. So pregnancy. We're gonna give a brief overview of our own kind of pregnancy experiences. For those of you that haven't listened to our show before, you might not know kind of what we went through, and we can both say that it was not a good experience.
It was uphill both ways.
We did not enjoy pregnancy.
No.
I am not enjoying pregnancy the second time around. So I'll have a little bit more to draw on because I'm doing this twice now. And so
it sucks.
And unfortunately the emotions haven't gotten better this time around. But yeah,
and
start us off.
You can go listen to episode 2, is it? Yes, I think episode 2, it's about pregnancy. We'll link it down below. If we figure out how to do it, we'll link it in the screen. Probably won't be able to figure that out, but we'll link it. Yeah. If you are new and you haven't listened to that one goes more in just to the experience of our pregnancy, where today we're going to specifically be talking about the emotions.
Yes.
Yes.
So start us off. What was your pregnancy experience? Just overall?
So last episode, I talked about my trying to conceive journey, and as all y'all know, I went into pregnancy like pretty negative, and I really thought it was going to get better once I got pregnant, but I struggled. I struggled with my emotions. I struggled with intrusive thoughts. I struggled with my body. I struggled physically with pain and nausea. I really struggled the most because I work in labor and delivery, and it's a very intense physical job. It's also like a very emotionally draining job. So my pregnancy was just hard. It was really hard. I was like constantly eating candies at work because I felt like I was going to throw up on everybody. And then I turned a corner when I went off work around 32 weeks, and that was life-changing because I didn't realize the mental impact that work was having on me, and I wasn't able to care for myself or my baby. I wasn't doing well. So when I went off work, things kind of got better, but overall, looking back, I don't really have any positive, memories. I had a great bump, but yeah, it was
You
hard.
had some very nice maternity photos.
I
I've
did,
seen those were
yeah.
beautiful. You
Yeah.
looked great.
Yeah, I was bumping.
But I get it.
It's terrifying, the idea of even considering doing this again. But
Episode 3 of Emotions of Motherhood.
coming in hot.
We'll get into that.
So Jen,
too,
tell us about your pregnancy. First pregnancy.
First pregnancy.
Just a quick summary.
They've been very similar. But my first pregnancy, again, same thing. I was super negative, trying to conceive. Didn't have a positive mindset at all going into it. So when it finally happened, I was like, oh, like I kind of was taken aback, and then basically right away, I barely got a chance to really process that I was pregnant before I just started puking up everything and anything. And if I wasn't puking, I was dry heaving. And like, I'm talking dry heaving hundreds of times a day.
Yeah, you were very sick.
Puking a lot. I was finally diagnosed with hyperemesis gravidarum.
Gravidarum. I don't know.
Never
It's a
say
hard
things
word.
Properly. Anyways, HG is what the cool kids call it. And it affects like
Really? The cool kids?
Yeah, the cool kids call it. It affects 3% of pregnancies. So it's actually very rare to get. So I'm not trying to scare y'all, but it sucked and it happened. And of course, I just happened to get this rare thing. So I was in and out of the hospital.
3 in 100 is like not that rare. Like I think
But
more
when you say
people.
3%, it sounds like
I mean,
I'll never get it. Like,
yeah,
you know,
of course, you don't think you're gonna get it, but
Yeah.
like I think it happens way more than people realize, and I
Totally.
think we need to talk about it more, which is why Jen's talking about
Yeah.
it. But
because nausea and vomiting in pregnancy is one
Very
thing, and
common.
people can not like vomit a lot and it still be really terrible. I'm not trying to take away.
This
Mine
is
was
next
just
level.
a little bit of a different experience because it was just more, and so I had to go to the hospital a lot. I had to get IVs a lot. I was super dehydrated because I wasn't eating or drinking. And it can be super dangerous to baby. I couldn't take prenatals, and like everyone's like, you need to take all these vitamins, and they're like, don't take anything, it's gonna make it worse. And so you're just like, you fight in your head about, am I harming the baby because I can't eat or drink? So they're pumping you full of stuff. Like it's just
hard. You're not just sick. Like I was very sick. Like I was nauseous and just my whole pregnancy. But what Jen went through was like, she actually was like clinically sick, requiring hospitalization, requiring medical intervention, not just like I can say that being sick in pregnancy, it completely changes your life.
Yes.
But the way that Jen was sick was that it actually affected her ability to like be a human.
like I wasn't brushing my teeth, I wasn't showering, like I couldn't do any basic life function. Like Nanad would have to like, sometimes I would sit in the bath or the shower and he would like try to wash my hair because it would make me feel better for like the 5 minutes that I had water running down. But like I wasn't leaving my room. Really, I wasn't leaving the bathroom floor most days. Like, when you think about how gross it is to not brush your teeth, especially when you've been vomiting, like it's...
Oh, I can just taste it.
It is just it is disgusting, and I thought I was going to die. So I spent a large part of my pregnancy thinking I was going to die or I was going to kill the baby because of what was happening.
Sounds really fun.
So, yeah, super fun experience. So it was just super negative. And then for some people, HG is very different. So for some people, it gets better after the first trimester, after the drop of hormones. But for others, it lasts. Like literally, you'll be puking until the baby's delivered. So I didn't know what it was going to be like. So I spent every day that I felt okay and that the puking stopped, thinking that it was going to be my last day and that I was going to start puking the next day.
Anticipating
so
it again.
So my entire pregnancy, I spent living in fear. And we're going to get into all the emotions, but basically, yeah, negative pregnancy. I was super sick, in and out of the hospital, a million doctor's visits. I lost weight, and then before I started gaining weight eventually, but I lost weight initially, and then that's a concern. And it's not fun when every doctor's like, oh, like...
When you become like not the medical mystery, but like they're all like, oh my goodness, like making a big scene about you. You're like, nobody wants a doctor to cause a scene about you. That is, you don't want to be notable or noteworthy. You just...
Yeah, so it wasn't fun. So
yeah, it's hard. And so talking about emotions, or not emotions, yes, emotions, that's what we're talking about.
We're literally talking about emotions.
Of pregnancy.
Yeah.
When, like, if you say that to somebody who's never had a child or somebody who has had good pregnancies, people are like, oh, yes, joy, blissful, glowing, I'm growing life. And you know what?
Yeah,
Some people feel that miraculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it is pretty freaking cool that, like, you literally put a penis inside of a vagina and then a baby comes out. Like,
The science behind it is miraculous.
it's amazing, but that doesn't mean you have to enjoy it. And that doesn't mean you can't have a handful of very difficult emotions as well. I had more than a handful. I had like a travel suitcase.
And
like,
let's just say most people we know and most people like even 10, 20 years, 30 years ago that had kids, there's not actually a lot of people that truly actually enjoyed it. Like enjoyed the whole thing and didn't have any negative emotions. Almost everyone I've talked to and I know had a negative experience at some point or negative emotions associated to pregnancy.
And most people didn't share those because before it wasn't really like socially appropriate. Like women were just supposed to sit there and be quiet and not talk about
grow your family because that was your job. Your job was to grow.
Yeah. You bake bread and you make kids.
But if you have any negative emotions, we're just here to say that is actually very common and it's okay to have those negative emotions. And we will get into it, but we both felt fear of trying to express our negative emotions, and if we actually said all the things that we were thinking about our pregnancy, that something bad would happen to baby, and
or that we would be shamed. Like I thought I was going to be stoned when I said that I wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah.
But we're just going to really quickly run through a couple of them just to kind of get the ball rolling. So common ones that can happen, that emotions that can come up in pregnancy that are completely unexpected: resentment. Mm-hmm. You can resent your partner for like really not understanding what you're going through, or the fact that they don't have to be pregnant. You can resent people who've had easy pregnancies. Like Jen talked about, there can also be guilt. So about having negative emotions or just around not enjoying pregnancy, especially if you wanted to get pregnant for so long and then you get pregnant and then you don't enjoy it. Like that doesn't mean you don't want to have a baby. It just means the journey from A to B is hard and that's okay.
Totally.
You can feel very isolated. Mm-hmm. So like we talked about, society is just kind of, it's becoming more acceptable to talk about the difficulty of pregnancy, the difficulty of managing being a working person and growing a family. Mm-hmm. But you can also, like something I felt that I had to stop doing a lot of the things I enjoyed. So I couldn't play sports. I stopped rock climbing. I was super into that before I got pregnant. I mean, I love a good glass of wine nights with friends, going out,
sushi,
breweries, sushi. Like there's so many things that I felt like I couldn't enjoy anymore. Even like going to a nightclub. I didn't want to do it, but the fact that, I could go, but I couldn't go and have the same experience.
But the fact that you couldn't do these things anymore
hit
you. Yeah.
And I really felt, there's like a big experience of being in no man's land. So you're not who you were before you were pregnant, but then you're also not a mom yet. So you're in this like in between, like no man's land, gray zone where
you're trying to figure things out. Like you are literally just in like this time zone, this like 9 months that you're like, I know something big is going to happen. Something big is going to change.
You're anticipating it, but
what's it going to be like? And then you get scared or get excited, but there's a lot of emotions.
If you're the first of your friends to have a baby, like nobody knows what you're going through.
Totally.
Nobody gets it unless they've been through it. Or maybe if you're the last of your friends. What if all your friends have kids that are like 10, 15 years older and it's hard to remember when you've been out of it for that long.
Have you seen, it's like a reel or a photo going around Instagram right now. And it basically says, like, to all the moms, like, all my friends that had kids before I did, like, I'm sorry I didn't support you better. Like, I now know what it is like. And I, like, it's basically
sorry
saying,
I didn't know, I know now.
Sorry I didn't know what I know now and how hard this really is and that I wasn't there for you, how you actually needed me to be. And I feel that 'cause so many of my friends had babies before and I didn't truly appreciate or really understand what they were probably going through.
How can you? Like how?
No, and you can't expect your friends to get it either, right? You can't expect anyone who's never done it before to know and have all the answers. But it is just when you're like, oh crap, I should have done more. But you can't go back and change the past. You can't go back. But it's an interesting, I just liked it. It made me
for sure. I really liked that. Another common emotion, which we both felt, is ambivalence. So like even if it was a planned pregnancy, you can still have like very mixed feelings about being pregnant. Something we'll get into later is like being pregnant and wanting to be pregnant, but then not wanting to be pregnant. And then anxiety. So like about loss, about something being wrong with the baby. about labor and delivery, about postpartum, about how it's going to change your relationship. There's a whole list of things to be anxious about. So those are just some of the ones. We'll dive into some of those deeper, and we're just going to kind of jump into it, ask each
Yeah.
other some questions.
Talk about our own kind of experiences with all the emotions.
Jen, I'm going to ask you first.
Okay.
What did you do, if you did anything, to prepare for the emotions of pregnancy?
Well, I've also said this in other episodes, but I was diagnosed with PTSD. So I have a lot of feelings. This is known, like my family knows, my husband knows, my therapist knows. And for a long time, it wasn't suggested that I get pregnant yet because of what I was going through. So there was a lot of kind of like, am I ready yet? Are you ever ready? But like,
No.
I went to a month-long treatment facility that I lived in a house and did all like aggressive anxiety, PTSD, depression treatment. So I was getting out of that. When is a good time to start trying, right? So, but I had done all of this work. So I felt like, you know what? I'm prepared. Like I'm as prepared as I'm ever going to be. I've learned more about myself, my feelings, like how to feel emotions. Like there's such a physical connection that your body, when it's not feeling well, will actually get like different pains in different places for different people. Some people do feel nauseous or they get like a tingling in their throat. I feel like a gut punch in my stomach and like a tightening. And so it was like I felt more in tune with my body and feelings than I'd ever felt. So I kind of was like, you know what? I've done all this work on myself.
What's one more thing?
Even if it sucks, I'll know how to deal with it better. So I thought I was prepared.
Well, you
because
did a lot of work.
I had done all of this work and I had worked so much on my treatment. I was on SSRIs for years. Like I had done a lot of work and I was in a pretty good place. So I thought I would be good because I put this work in.
You didn't go into it naively thinking like, oh, pregnancy's easy. It's like, even if you knew it was going to be hard, you're like, well, I have all these tools in the tool belt. Like I have all of these things to deal with.
Totally. Tools in the tool belt was what my therapist kept saying. And because she said, with your history, you might have a higher likelihood of getting basically perinatal or postpartum depression and anxiety just because of your history. But she said, you're also more prepared than the average mom because you will know right away, oh, this isn't actually okay what I'm thinking. Whereas if you've never experienced anxiety before and you get anxiety in pregnancy, you don't know you don't know even how to express how you're feeling or ask for help because you've never experienced it.
You don't know that the
before.
intrusive thought you're having is actually like not supposed to be happening.
Right? Like, but if you've never experienced this before, it's terrifying. So she's like, at least you kind of know. Your husband knows what the signs are. Like he knows also when you're not doing well now. So he can point it out. I feel like we went into it as prepared as we were going to be.
Is there anything you would have done differently? There's not really anything else you can do.
No, I don't think there's anything. Yeah, nothing that I can think of. So what about you? Did you do anything to prepare, like emotionally get ready?
The few years before I got pregnant, I was going through like a big life transformation. I went through nursing school. I really got into therapy. I did a lot of like yoga and meditation and journaling and just like a lot of work on myself. I started looking at relationships in my life and like how they affect me, how to make them better, how to cut ties if needed.
Set boundaries.
Set boundaries. I was really working on boundaries, still working on boundaries. They're freaking hard.
I feel like that's a
lifelong journey. Yeah. So same thing. Like I had struggled before with anxiety. I had been through some like trauma and loss and had worked through that and, got the tool belt all full of different tools, but I was not, I was prepared, but like I was not prepared.
It hit us. We was like trains hitting us. We both prepared, but we both still got rocked.
Definitely. And I don't think there was anything I could have done differently. No.
Yeah.
Such is life.
Yeah.
All right. So Jen, what emotions did you have around announcing? So like either before or after or...
So we announced to my like immediate family pretty quick. I'm very close with my family. Like we talk every day. We have a group chat. I thought I would play it cool and like, let's wait till I get the ultrasound. Like, you want to make sure it's good. And then like a week later, I was like, I have to tell them.
I'm pregnant.
So I just like went over and told my family. And it was, I didn't do any like big crazy thing or like, I didn't wait as long as I should have. Not that I should have, sorry.
That you planned.
But like, how people do all these like videos and I didn't actually think to do any of those because I was just like, I just have to tell them. And
you're living in the moment.
But I didn't actually announce to like the rest of the world, I guess, for quite a long time. And this is something that we've talked about and with Shannon as well, because we all just had so many emotions. Announcing was a very difficult thing to do. And I was so sick that I wasn't talking to anyone. I wasn't even talking to my husband. wasn't talking to my family when I got sick. Like my family would check in with my husband. He was the one bringing me to the hospital and back. Like I wasn't talking to anyone. So there's no way I could have announced. So I was actually very glad that I announced when I did to my family, because at least it was
They
in a
knew.
moment of joy. And it wasn't when I was deathly sick that I was trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm sick because I'm pregnant. Like I'm glad that I at least got to tell them beforehand. And then it wasn't until I was feeling better and then I was kind of out on the other side of HG that I got to tell the rest. It was exciting at first, and then it was just,
Poo-poo.
I wasn't excited to tell people. I thought I would be much more excited to like post on Instagram and, do the social media thing. But my post was actually like, I'm pregnant, but it is sucked. And it's not always happy. And my post was like kind of like a PSA.
Like a tell-all.
Just hello, it's not always happy for people, and it doesn't always happen for people. Like, yes, we're pregnant and we are grateful and we are excited, but it has not been, what I thought it would be like. So excited than not excited at all. And then I just did it because I felt like I had to. There's a lot of pressure that you have to do this social media announcement.
It has to be this big, like,
hurrah, we love our lives, we're amazing. And it just wasn't like
we're
that.
so excited.
What about you? I know you waited too to do the social media announcement.
I told my close friends and family, like literally right away. I had like multiple people I texted literally as soon as I got the positive test.
Yeah.
My husband's parents and my parents, we told right away as well. And what I said was like, I want to celebrate this because I took a year to get pregnant. I don't know how long this is going to last. I'm really hoping that I have a baby, but like I want to enjoy this because I've never been pregnant before. So it was, a couple of weeks of like, woohoo, I'm pregnant. I even told coworkers around 8 weeks. I told a few early on, like 5-6 weeks, because I was already getting sick. And I told like the charge nurse, I was like, FYI, I'm pregnant. If I run, like, please watch my patient.
Yeah.
And then I told other coworkers around 8 weeks. I was like, I feel like crap. I'm not enjoying this. So FYI, I'm pregnant. And mixed reactions. A lot of the older nurses were like, oh, I can't believe you're telling people, but whatever. And then I told the social media world late, like 6-7 months. And kind of what Jen said, like I wasn't enjoying it. I was really struggling and I just didn't have it in me to do this like big planned fancy Instagram post. Mm-hmm. So I actually just started posting pictures of me with a big old belly. And a couple people were very bold in being like, that's a pregnant belly. And I'm like, that's bold of you. I mean, I was obviously pregnant. And then I think it was Father's Day. So in June, and I got pregnant in January, I posted a picture of me pregnant with my husband and saying like something about him being a baby daddy. So it wasn't even like an announcement. It just was like,
in passing, you mentioned it.
Yeah. So I really wanted to announce to my close friends because I needed that support. I like also wanted to celebrate with them because I was so excited that it finally happened. And then the day that I announced to like my close group of girlfriends, the next day I had this like huge vulnerability hangover. I was absolutely convinced something was going to happen now because I told people now something bad's going to happen, like Murphy's Law or whatever it is. Like I'm celebrating it. So then the world's going to be like, nope, done. Yeah, you're out. And I told my friend about it. I was like, I'm feeling so anxious. I was like literally I was not doing okay, especially because I was nauseous the week before and then it went away. And I was convinced something happened. And her reply was, it was very sweet. What she was saying was, well, yes, it's very scary, but like now think about all of these people who love you and are going to love this baby and all of these people who are cheering for you and rooting for this baby. So like, it's okay to be scared, but like you have all of these people now sending you good energy and cheering you on. And I was like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. That instead of all of these people like putting expectations on me that now I have to have a baby, they were just clapping in the background like, go Karlee and baby,
And you need to have a support system because through the hard times, you need people there for you too. So I think there's a part of, it might be scary to tell people, but you want people in your corner that are also there for you, rooting for you, but are there for you regardless.
If you need them.
To vent, to talk to just lean on when you need that extra support because it's a lot.
For sure. And I've heard from friends who've had losses that it was very hard to then tell people that they had a loss.
Yes.
But for me, if that did happen, I would have told people and I wouldn't have been able to do it alone.
Totally.
So I was like, I'm going to tell people who I'd be comfortable telling if something happened. That's just kind of where I was at.
Yeah.
around that. But there's a lot of like societal pressure to have this like beautiful announcement. And you know what? You don't need to have that. You don't even need to announce it. I've seen people just post pictures of them having babies. And I'm like, hey, I guess they were pregnant.
I know.
And
Well, they probably told their like people
yeah,
they
of
saw in
course.
person, their family, and that was the support they needed. And you don't need to post on social
No,
media.
you
You don't need
don't.
to make some crazy announcement that's videotaped and something like it doesn't need to be like that. Like
No.
you do whatever you're comfortable with, and it'll be great.
It will be great.
What was the most unexpected emotion that you felt in pregnancy?
Well, there was a lot. I think I was expecting to feel anxiety and like concern, but what I wasn't expecting was my reaction to feeling sick. So I have like a very complicated history with like body image, and I used to be a competitive athlete for years. So I was always very fit, very athletic. My body was a machine, you know, like it was something, it always worked for me that way. And then in my 20s, as I stopped playing competitive sports and life got busy, went to nursing school, started shift work, I was no longer like this fit little fitness bunny that I used to be. And when I was really struggling in pregnancy with both nausea and just pain and like aches and pains and not sleeping, all of that, I equated it to like being my fault because I wasn't in the same shape I was in before. And now looking back at me pre-pregnancy, like there was nothing wrong with my body, the way it worked, the way it looked. I think a lot of it was just like internalized like fat phobia that society tells us that you have to be fit to, and like if something happens to you, then it's your fault for being unfit. So I had a lot of guilt around that and a lot of like embarrassment and shame that my pregnancy was harder because I wasn't, in air quotes, fit, even though I was. Looking back, I'm just like, man, society really puts pressure on women to like the mold we're supposed to fit into. I had a lot of guilt about that like, oh, my back hurts because like I didn't work out enough or I gained too much weight.
I know the smallest people that were sick. I know the biggest people. Like
Exactly.
every size person can be sick and have a painful pregnancy. Your weight and fit disability, like it doesn't actually come into
No.
play. If you're going to get sick, you're going to get sick.
Definitely.
But your mind plays those tricks on you.
Definitely.
So I totally can appreciate that.
I also had a couple coworkers make very offside comments that they're the kind of comments that people say and then you kind of just like smile and nod or like ignore it. Yeah. And then later you're like, what? Did they actually say that to me? I had, I think 4. So one, a coworker, literally in the middle of the night, she made a comment about how, oh, I can tell you're carrying a boy. And I was like, why? And she was like, oh, because he's sucking the life out of you.
The sucking the life out of you comment is very common. Like girls.
And she was wrong. It's girls that steal your beauty.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're wrong. 1, and 2, rude.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was also, this is funny. I forgot about this until just now. Yeah. Someone's like, oh, I can see in your face you're pregnant because it's just getting so big. And I was like, thanks. That makes me feel really good that you just told me I have a fat face. Like it's just a weird, unnecessary comment.
Yeah, unnecessary.
So I'm sorry you got all those comments. That's
rude.
Stupid.
I had another coworker too. I like was running back from my break and I was like chewing. I was like, sorry, I had to have a cookie before I came out. And I actually like didn't eat poorly during pregnancy. I didn't feel well enough to really eat anything in the first couple of months. Yeah. And then when I did get my appetite back, I still didn't get it back the same way. So it's not like I was stuffing my face with Oreos all day, every day. Even if I was, her comment, what she said, she was like, oh, do you want to have an 8-pound baby? You know, this baby has to come out of you. Like something along those lines. And then like made a comment about when I was going for my gestational diabetes testing or something along those lines. And I was like, that is so rude. And then Henry ended up being this tiny little peanut. And I did not have gestational diabetes.
And we both are of the same opinion. Like you do what you need to do to get through pregnancy.
Exactly.
To get through the nausea, to get through the crappy feelings, to get through the emotions. Like if you need to eat an Oreo or a bowl of ice cream and you like,
you do
you. Like there should be no judgment on what you choose to eat and not eat. And like right now in this pregnancy, it's weird because I don't want sweets. And I did want sweets in the first one. But now like what I crave is I've told Karlee like broccoli soup is like
yum. That's
like
good,
that
though.
is what at 9 p.m. I want before I go to bed. Like I don't want a bowl of ice cream. I don't want, which is weird to me. But like
That's
but
a
last
great
pregnancy,
snack.
that's what I wanted. So to each
Broccoli
their
soup
own.
is so good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, if you didn't know the sex of baby, you would probably think you were
yes,
having a boy.
totally.
But
Surprise! I'm having another girl. I don't think we have I don't
Oh,
think we've said
yeah.
that yet, but we know that we're having a second girl. So
Yay.
even though I'm feeling very different, it is kind of funny, but
Interesting.
it is a girl. So
Yeah,
we'll have two
yay.
girls.
Very fun.
Okay, my most unexpected emotion. I'm going to try not to cry, but I'm going to
Let
be
it flow.
very vulnerable because I think that it's only fair to share my like actual true emotions. And I don't even know what emotion this was. I don't really even know how to put it into words, but I debated getting an abortion. And I still like I feel it in my gut before I say it out loud because it feels so
Icky.
yeah, like I should not be allowed to say this out loud. And let's like I will preface with I'm not trying to get into a political debate here. We're
Yeah.
not trying to say what's right or wrong. I was not someone that really I never thought I would have an abortion. Like there's times where you need it great, like, but I never thought for me personally I would ever like that was never something that I thought would have
You
even
didn't
been on my
anticipate that you
radar
would
at
think
all.
that. Yeah.
But when I was so sick, I thought I was going to die or I thought I was killing my baby. I literally didn't know if I was going to live the next day.
It felt
I felt like that was my only option.
the only option, yeah.
And that was my only way out. And then feeling those feelings of wanting to have an abortion that made me feel like the absolute shittiest person in the world. And like I was trash. And that now that I said that out loud, now I was going to lose the baby because my body and like the universe is going to be like, well, you're not grateful enough. We're just going to like, nature's going to do its thing then, right? So I was then had this fear of if I told anyone these awful thoughts I was having, that I would also then lose the baby because of that. And I finally told it to my therapist and my doctor and my husband, and they were like, that's okay. Like, it's actually common that when you're in this position to have those thoughts. And I spoke to someone who was, an acquaintance I knew. We weren't super close, but I knew she had suffered from HG. And I reached out to her and was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to keep going. Like, I'm sorry to just put this all on you, but you're the only one that I know that it's experienced this. And she's like, I had the exact same thoughts. And just hearing someone else say it, I felt so validated.
That they had been through it.
So I hope there's someone listening that is going to be like, I wasn't alone. I also had these bad thoughts that I never thought I would have had. And you are not alone. I had them and they're terrifying. And I had them again this pregnancy. And I hate them. I'm not, like, they're not fun to experience, but I had them again. And I don't even know, like, I don't know how to name that emotion.
I think it's like a protective mechanism in your brain, that your brain is like, this isn't, like, I'm not doing okay. Like, how can I make this end faster?
It was the only, like, logical thing that was coming out. Because otherwise I just thought I was going to die along with the baby. It seemed, I guess, kind of, I just don't know how to name that emotion. But that was the most unexpected thing. I was, like, the farthest thing I ever thought I would have expected to feel. Like, we were trying to get pregnant. Like,
yeah, it was
it's not often that you would try to get pregnant and then think you want to have an abortion.
I think it's more common than you think, because we have another friend who had the same thing.
Yes.
Used fertility treatments to get pregnant and then had those same thoughts because the pregnancy was so hard, and like the only realistic thing to do was to end it. And I think it's a lot. It's heavy and it's dark, and I'm sure most people experience that alone, because a lot of people, they maybe don't even recognize that they're actually thinking that. Like, they're like, no, I'm not thinking that. That's just, like, they brush it out of their mind. But
and we have more questions we're gonna go through, but if I could just say the one takeaway from today's episode is just that we don't want anyone to feel alone in these negative emotions, that it's very normal. It's actually quite common to have negative emotions, and that it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad mom. It doesn't mean you're gonna be a bad mom if you've had these bad thoughts. It doesn't make you more likely to lose your baby. Like, all those negative associations that people have to not liking pregnancy, we just want to try to, like, you are allowed to give you space to feel the crappiness and feel the negative emotions, and it doesn't make you a bad mom.
No, it doesn't make you any less prepared or able to be a parent.
Totally.
Doesn't make you, like, insignificant, or like if you are feeling these things, it's very easy to fall into the spiral then of like, well, I'm not good enough to be a mom. I'm not meant to be a mom. I can't handle this.
Yes.
If I can't handle this, how am I going to handle the child? Well, you know what? You figure it out.
All the things that still run through my mind, but
still every day.
Yeah, okay. So that's that. That's heavy. Okay. So how did you cope with the feelings of guilt and shame and not enjoying your pregnancy?
Well, I don't know if I really coped with them.
That might be a nice way to put it. Okay. Well, you didn't cope. That's fair, too.
I did a lot of therapy. Yep. I increased my medications. I didn't. My doctor increased my meds. I talked to a lot of my friends, like a lot of friends who had been through this. I opened up to them about it, and I learned that I wasn't alone. So yeah, maybe I coped with it more than I think.
We're always so hard on ourselves, though. And this
Definitely.
is something that my husband, he's like, you're always your worst critic. Like, I'm sure if we asked your husband, he'd be like, no, like she powered through. She did these things. She
Yeah.
worked on it. Whereas you're like, I didn't cope at all,
Yeah,
right? Like,
for
we're
sure.
just
I think like I sucked, and Jeff would probably be like, she was a rock star.
totally, right? Like you did
Yeah.
more than you think. And so maybe
Oh,
when you're
the
looking
brain.
back, you could be nice to yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Reframe it. Reframe it. I did the best that I could do with what I had available.
Yeah. And this is something maybe we should just do a little plug in here, that we are fortunate that there is a reproductive mental health in Fraser Valley where we live. And that's something that you used in your pregnancy. I
Still
didn't know
using
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still using it, but I just got a referral in this pregnancy to it, and I'm looking forward to getting those resources. And so there are other resources out there, and depending on where you live, that can help you. But I didn't know about it. And also another plug-in that I wanted to say is something that Karlee had told me this, because I was also on an SSRI. So we were talking about this. And when they increased your meds, I remember you telling me that you were like, oh, like it almost sounds negative, like, oh, they have to increase my meds, like I'm struggling that bad. But it was something, I think, I don't know, the psychiatrist, someone said to you, is like, you also gain weight when you're pregnant. So what amount of SSRI you're on when you started pregnancy probably isn't going to be the amount that you need when you are 3 months or in your third trimester. And that clicked in my mind that I was like, so it's logical that you might need to increase your meds. So if that's something that is happening to you, or someone suggested, like, that's also okay. You're also a different size when you're in your
For
third
sure.
trimester,
You're carrying a
right?
child.
Like,
And I don't think
there's a
that
lot going on.
if you aren't dealing with a doctor who specifically manages
Yes.
mental health and pregnancy, I don't know if that's something that people would think of, because it seems very simple. Like, oh yes, like if you gain 50 pounds, you're going to need
Totally.
a higher dose. But when she said that, I was like, okay, that takes the shame out of needing a higher dose, because it's not that like I'm getting weaker in air quotes, because I wasn't. It was, well, two things. One, I gained weight because I was pregnant. So we needed more of the med to like reach the same threshold. And then
Totally.
also I'm going through something very transformative and like emotionally exhausting, and something that you do need more support in, and that's fine. So I don't know if it was that I gained weight, or if that I was just going through a harder, emotionally taxing part of my life that I needed more. It could have been both. Could have been A, could have been B.
I just thought it was so interesting, and I had never thought about it before. So I appreciated when you shared that with me. So I'm just
Putting
passing
it out
along
there.
the info. I thought that was very interesting.
Rolling it onto the interwebs.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? How did you cope with feelings of guilt, shame, or not enjoying pregnancy, or
I
even
feel
just the emotions?
same thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like I coped very well. But I'm sure my husband would be like, you did all these things. Like, but so I did a lot of therapy. I luckily had a very good team in place because of my history. So I already had those resources. So no one ever told me about this, like Fraser Health, reproductive health, mental health, because I had a psychiatrist, I had a psychologist, I saw my family doctor was well aware of everything. And, I had these supports, and I used them a lot in my pregnancy. And that was kind of the only thing that helped. One of my biggest outlets for me when I'm super anxious is physical activity. But because I was so sick, I couldn't even walk a kilometer without being like super sick and my body not functioning. So that was really hard. So I thought the ways that I would cope in pregnancy, like going beforehand, I was like, well, I'm just going to be one of those pregnant women you see running, and that has the beautiful bump that just like runs and works out and is still at the gym. That's what I thought going into pregnancy. And so when you take away one of those big coping mechanisms that you're so used to doing, that was like I tried to go for walks, because fresh air is really good for your mental health, and physical exercise, but then I couldn't do those things. Like I would try, but it was
like pregnancy took away some of your coping mechanisms.
yes. And it's not everyone's coping mechanism, but just for me, that was one of my biggest ones. So I couldn't use a lot of the coping mechanisms that I had. So I don't think I did as good as I could have done, but I just did a lot of like talk therapy.
But with your circumstances,
that was what I could do. So
for you, Jen, was there a turning point when things got better?
I mean, I wouldn't say there was any point that I was like, I love pregnancy now. Like there was no like grand turning point. But in the third trimester, we both had anterior placentas, so I wasn't feeling a lot of baby movement. And when you already have anxiety and you're already negative about your pregnancy, you want to feel it because it makes you feel like
it's real.
Things are still okay. This is real. It's a good reminder.
It's reassurance.
So it wasn't until like really late in my pregnancy that I actually started feeling more and like more regularly movements. My bump was just huge, and I just I still had to take meds. I could never stop taking them, but I was feeling much better. I could eat more normally. I mean, I had different aches and pains. Like I'm talking like the last like
Month or two. Yeah.
month-ish of my pregnancy was probably the only turning point that I really had where I was like, I'm doing this. Like I've made it this far. Like I'm past the viability week. Baby's growing. I'm really feeling it.
Yep. I can't wipe my butt
So
anymore. So
yeah,
that's when you're like,
sleeping
baby's
sucks,
growing.
but like
yeah.
all these other aches and pains came and like the negatives of not being able to sleep well. But I was feeling the best mentally about my pregnancy. Then the thoughts came in about when baby's here, but like the pregnancy feelings, I think the last month. What about you?
When I stopped work, 100%.
Yes.
I didn't realize how mentally, not exhausting, but like mentally draining. What's the word? Like I was having mental injuries from being at work. I don't
Which
know.
makes sense. Like
Yeah.
knowing about what you do for work, not that I've ever done it, but I could only imagine like, and that's traumatizing, seeing what you see, doing what you do while being pregnant. Like that
sure.
is so hard.
And there's a lot, it's like 99% happy and 99% really exciting. And I do love it. But then that 1% of either things that you hear about from patients, something they've experienced, or that you see firsthand, or just like knowing about things that are happening on the unit, just the 1%, it's even less than 1%, like the 0.1% of really awful traumatic things that happen at work are the only things that I could focus on. Going off work was the best thing I did for my mental health. And even for my physical health, I was able to actually go for walks around the block. Like I couldn't go very far. I could literally walk down the street and then I would have Jeff, my husband, would have to massage my back because it would like spasm and then we'd walk back. But it was good for me.
Did you, like this is just me out of curiosity, a random question I'm going to throw in here. Seeing women labor and go through that pain, did that make you feel better or less prepared for actually like giving
For
birth
labor?
yourself? Yeah. For the actual like delivering part.
I actually felt okay. I didn't have a lot of anxiety around labor and delivery for like multiple reasons. Like one, I have a pretty good pain tolerance. And with my background in sports, I was like, I'm good at like just powering through physical things. So I wasn't really scared about that. And then also the anxiety around like something going wrong. I didn't have a ton of anxiety about that because I really trusted where I was delivering. And I also knew that I knew enough things, like I knew enough of the warning signs that I would either like call 911 or go to the hospital if I was really concerned.
Yeah.
It didn't scare me. It like I was actually excited for labor. Like I was like, I want to experience this.
That's the few people that were like, bring it on.
Actually, I was like, let's do it.
Interesting. I was just curious.
But I did actually at work I started getting like sympathy contractions. Like I was starting to get like very painful Braxton Hicks at work. I even like became a patient one day and then they just didn't stop. So it was very hard for me in the end, like before I went off, to be around laboring people without like feeling it. And then I would spiral that I was in preterm labor. So that was hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But labor, I was fired up about it. And you know what? It was great. We still haven't done our birth stories. So one day.
One day. Okay. Isolation and loneliness. Do you think that you managed that, or did you have any tips and tricks that you kind of did?
There was a few. I didn't expect to feel so lonely because you're with child, but I did. I felt like I was the only one that I knew that was having like a really hard pregnancy, and then the whole like guilt and shame about that. I felt alone in those feelings. One thing I did do was I joined a lot of the like Facebook groups. So I joined one for due dates in October for all of the world. I think it's mostly the States, and then another one just for Canada. So then I got to hear about other people who were pregnant around like very close in gestation to me. And then I also joined some of the local Facebook groups, like the local mom groups. I don't know what they're called. There's a whole bunch where we live. And from that, I actually started talking to other moms in our community. Either I'm picking up free stuff that they're posting, and then they're like, oh, well, how far along are you? And then we just like chit chat. I actually met one of our mutual mom friends on one of those pages. We started chatting, then it turned out our babies were due 8 days apart. We lived really close. We had very similar lives, and they're still a very close mom friend now. So that helped with the loneliness because she also had a very difficult pregnancy and trying to conceive journey. So we could bond over that. It made me feel like I like wasn't alone in those feelings. I didn't realize I was lonely until like very later on in my pregnancy. So that was hard. What about you? I don't remember what the question was. It was just about being
It
lonely.
was about
Yeah.
like loneliness and isolation. I don't think I had that huge. I think I was so negative about other things that like I didn't. And like my husband is great, and I'm very fortunate to have a very supportive spouse who was there for me every step of the way, and like I had lots of people checking in, and so that was never a big emotion for me.
Mm.
So I don't know if I coped with it because I don't think I realized anything about that.
You were alone on the bathroom floor for a lot of it, but like
Yes.
being alone and lonely was the least of your worries when you felt like you were going to die.
Yes, like I was just so worried about everything else that I don't think those things ever really crossed my mind. But this is an interesting one. This next one, did you bond with your baby during
Mm.
pregnancy? Because
Hmm.
this has come up a lot in our mom groups. So it's a very interesting one about bonding with baby when it's inside of you and you're pregnant, and then bonding after birth is. I mean, we'll get
Yeah.
into that another day, but these are big topics that need to be talked about more.
Definitely. I couldn't imagine what he was going to look like. And I did find out the sex early, around 12 weeks, and that did help because then I could kind of like imagine my life having a little boy. But it was hard because I didn't feel a lot of movement. And I didn't start feeling movement until like quite late, like regular movement. And even then later on, I didn't. Yeah, I want to say I didn't not bond, but I didn't feel like super, super connected. What about you?
Say I would say I didn't really feel a bond. I didn't know the sex I was having.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really know a lot. I didn't feel a lot because the anterior placenta, and I was so negative. I think I was so scared of losing the baby that if I let myself feel a
Mm-hmm.
bond, I was just going to be more disappointed and let down. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I kind of like mentally stopped myself from forming a bond.
Yeah, because
I
it's
think I
easier
just
that way.
really, yeah, it was just a coping mechanism that
Yeah,
I did.
just
So I don't think I
associate.
really had this bond. I would try to like rub my belly and talk to baby and do the things that they tell you. But I don't think I had a strong bond or strong
Mm-hmm.
feelings at all. Maybe towards the end I started to. But I'd say in the first 2 trimesters for sure.
Yeah, that doesn't even
I
feel
didn't
real.
feel that
Yeah,
strong connection. And I think that it's actually more normal than people think that you don't feel this immediate connection and bond. And
even after baby's
we'll get
born.
into this
Yeah,
again. A lot of people don't feel it immediately either. And society tells you you need to have this like out of body experience and bond with baby immediately. And it started when they were in the womb. And like you need to have this like
yeah, that's
and this like
BS.
aha moment doesn't happen for everyone right away.
For some,
It's a
it's a
slow
slow burn.
burn.
Yeah,
Some people it is like that. Some people do have it immediately. Some people it takes a couple days, couple weeks, couple months, a
mm-hmm.
year. Like it is different for everyone,
I remember the first night I felt like I was breastfeeding somebody else's baby.
which is so weird. Like there's this
So
baby
weird.
connected
Yeah,
to
and
my
then I'm like, oh
boob.
wait, he's mine. Like
Yeah,
I grew and birthed him.
yeah,
Weird.
yeah.
Looking back, Jen, is there any advice you would give yourself?
I think the biggest thing that I needed to hear that I didn't hear a lot of is that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not love it. It's okay to have bad emotions and that it doesn't make you a bad mom. I think that's what I
Mm-hmm.
needed to hear the most, and I didn't hear it. A lot of people I knew they didn't have like amazing, perfect pregnancies, but they also didn't have bad pregnancies. I wasn't talking to anyone really that had HG. No one really kind of knew, and no one was really saying anything. They'd be like, oh, that sucks, which is good. But like, I think that's my biggest piece of advice, or what I wish I needed to hear more of, is that it's okay. It's okay that you had these bad thoughts. It's okay if you thought of abortion. Doesn't mean you're going to be a bad mom.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're going to lose your baby, and it doesn't mean you're a
Yeah.
bad mom.
And just because you're struggling now doesn't mean you aren't capable of being a mom or that you're not
Yes.
worthy of being a mom.
Yeah.
It's okay to struggle and have these feelings like this, similar to this at any point in your journey, and you can still be a fantastic mother.
So I think that's the biggest thing. Like I wish I heard more of, which is now my biggest piece of advice to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of the same question and answer for me. So what about
Definitely.
you?
I think I would tell myself like you are doing the best that you can with what your circumstances are.
Yeah.
Like it's okay that you're struggling mentally because you like are kind of surrounded by you're surrounded by lots of big emotions like at work. Big happy emotions, sad emotions, and like a lot of stress and overwork and burnout. Like you're just surrounded by a lot. So I think that I would have just told myself like you're doing the best and you're making the best decisions and doing what you can with like the situation you're in.
Totally.
And the same thing like what Jen said, like, I'm still, just because you're struggling now doesn't mean you're going to be a bad mom. Because like I look at my life now, like, yes, I still struggle with things. We all struggle with things, and it doesn't take away from my ability to be a mom. It's almost like the opposite, like recognizing it and putting the energy and work and like energy of life into it is making you a better mom.
And it's also another one of those like viral memes going around basically saying like, if you're struggling, it means you care. If you're worried about being a good mom, it means that you do care and that you are a good mom. So it's almost like having those negative emotions and having those thoughts means that you actually do care and that you're human and that you're going to be a good mom. Like it's kind of counterintuitive sometimes and you need to really think about it, but it's a good reminder that
for sure,
like you are killing it and it's
self high five.
So when you cry all week and you're like, oh, I can't do this, like you are doing it and it means you care. It means you love your child. And
although I do want to say, even if you're not having strong emotions, you can still care.
Oh,
so it's not the opposite isn't true. But
totally.
Yeah. There's a lot. Man, emotions.
It was a very hard journey.
It's a hard time. And I think that society is changing to support and validate the experience of pregnant and postpartum women more, but we're still stuck in this binary that like you either work or you are a mom. Like that's kind of like the expectation. You work like you aren't a mom, and you're a mom like you don't work. Like you have to mother like you don't work. But it's not black and white. Like the world needs to change.
There's still so many issues with pregnancy and workplace, like job promotions and being pregnant, being on mat leave, coming back from mat leave, like things I'm experiencing. There's still a ton of issues with working as a mother. Like there's
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, let's do our Mom Day mantra.
Mantra.
Our little affirmation for pregnancy.
Yes.
I want you to say it today, Jen.
Okay. Being a mother is learning about strengths you didn't know you had and dealing with fears you didn't know existed. It's Linda Wooten.
Thank you, Linda. We all needed that today.
Yes.
Linda! Isn't there a funny video of somebody saying Linda on YouTube?
Okay, that I don't know.
Okay,
If that was a viral thing.
I think it's a viral thing from like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Linda, listen. We'll find it. Anyways.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Backtrack.
But Linda has it right. Like
she nailed it.
You are so strong for going through it. Like regardless of what your experience was, you are one strong person for getting through a pregnancy. It is hard. It's not easy physically, not easy mentally, and people don't give themselves enough credit for just doing it.
100%. You're doing the dang thing.
And it is terrifying. And emotions and fears will come up that you never knew existed. You may have never experienced them before, never experienced anxiety, and it is terrifying. If you it's terrifying and sucks when it's your 10th time doing it, but it sucks if it's your first. Like it's hard.
It's a lot.
So
a lot of emotions. Have a good cry.
Get a support system in place. But
for sure,
those are all of our emotions. Those are,
those aren't all of them. Those are some.
There's a million of them, but those are some of the big ones that we felt, and we hope that it makes you feel kind of less alone in some of your thoughts that maybe you've had. And
share this with the other mom friends who are either pregnant or friends that are like babies, and getting pregnant is going to be part of their journey soon.
Yeah.
Send it along, because you know what? Nobody deserves to suffer alone. And I think many of us experience this, but not everyone wants to, record it in their living room and put it on the internet. So
but we want to help other people.
Yeah, we do. All right. Well, happy Mom Day.
Happy Mom Day.
And
See you
later.
next
Next week.
Bye.